You're listening to the Sensuality Project podcast, where the messiness of real life gets sexy, hosted by Stacey Herrera. This podcast is intended for mature audiences only. Episodes contain profane language and topics of a sexual nature that may not be suitable for children. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Welcome to another episode of the Sensuality Project podcast. I am your host, Stacey Herrera. This episode is by far the most vulnerable conversation that I've ever had. And not because I was revealing so much, but because of who my guest is. This week, my guest is my daughter, Niara. And our conversation was completely impromptu. I have several conversations stored up, ready to go. But I decided that this week I was going to do a solo episode simply because I'm going to take the last 2 weeks of the year off and then we will return in January. So I had decided that I was going to talk by myself. And then my daughter came home and I said, would you like to sit down and have a chat with me? And she agreed. So this episode it was a beautiful conversation. We talked about her evolution as a sexual woman and also how she experienced sexuality as a child. We also did a lot of talking about relationships and intention setting and like showing up and doing the work and how relationships bring up your shit. So it's a really great episode. It's great if you are a parent. It's great if you're thinking about being a parent. And it's also great if you are the child of a parent, which aren't we all? So this episode really is for everybody. And I'm so proud of her. And it's a great conversation. Of course, I am 100% and completely biased. So So you tune in and be the judge of that. And again, like this will be the final episode for 2018, but we will be back in January talking about some juicy, delicious topics. And so we will be returning on January 2nd. So I would love for you to give me some feedback. I would love for you to do a review on iTunes. Let me know how this episode impacts you, what you thought. You want to shoot me an email, that would be lovely. My email address is Stacey, Stacey, at staceyherrera.com. I really just want to hear your take on sexuality and your take on, normalizing sex with children. I'd love to hear what you think about that. So let me know, and I'm going to just stop talking. Here we go. So we were talking about your sexuality and whether you feel as sexually empowered as I believe you feel. Sorry.
Yeah, I do. I feel like, in the sense that I know I'm a sexual person, probably a little hypersexual.
You feel hypersexual?
A little bit. Because from the people around me, they either are sexual and and suppress it, or they just don't have the same, expression of sexuality as I do. Or as I wouldn't call it aggressive, but it's a higher form of expression of my sexuality, I think.
So do you think you're hypersexual, or do you think that you are just comfortable expressing? And so it might feel hyper compared to people that are afraid or resistant or ashamed about expressing their sexual nature?
I think that I'm hypersexual because even when I'm not expressing it, I still feel very sexual.
But that's your normal.
Yeah, but it ebbs and flows.
That's normal too.
Oh, I know, but I don't know. I feel hypersexual.
Okay. I'm just asking. You get to feel hypersexual.
No, yeah, I would define it that way. Because even people who don't express it, you can tell when they're comfortable in their sexuality, whatever that looks like. There's a certain confidence and backing, and there's an energy that comes with someone who is comfortable in their sexuality. And so I feel like, I feel like, I am very sexual and I have no shame around expressing that sexuality. I don't have any reservations about expressing that sexuality. Obviously, I believe there's a time and place for everything, but I've never had any hesitation about expressing it. The thought I had earlier when we first started discussing it was I now am with someone who is extremely sexual, and that coupled with the fact that you did teach me not to be ashamed of my sexuality, I have no problem expressing when I'm like extra horny or I just want to do something nasty. Like, I don't have like, oh my God, should I not say that? He's going to think I'm weird. I'm just like, oh my God, like, we'll be at the grocery store and I'm like, I want to suck your dick right now. Like, I just have the urge, like, But, you know, like, there's a lot of people who won't even, like, even intimate between someone you've been with and, you know, you guys, people have sex and they still won't say those things like that. And I'm like, no, like, let me grope you while we're walking through the mall. Like, you know, again, time and a place for everything, but I don't have any, like, I don't have any qualms about expressing my sexual desires, sexual needs, like, what I want to do, even when I wasn't with someone so very sexual. I remember in high school, these guys I liked, we were talking, and we started hanging out, and I was too sexual for him. And
you weren't even having sex yet?
No, I wasn't. I was too sexually expressive for him. And it made him uncomfortable. And I was just like, I don't even get why you would be uncomfortable. Like, but again, I don't know any other way because you laid that platform for me. So.
Well, I also think it's important one of the things that I think comes up for a lot of parents when it comes to like having conversations about sex or, you know, having creating a comfortable space where kids can talk about sex without feeling shamed. I think some parents are really concerned that if they normalize it, then their kids will become sexual too soon. And I don't think that that's true. I think that when you normalize it, there's no rush. And also, you know, of course, a lot of people believe that sexual means fucking, but you can be sexual without fucking. And so, like you just said, you were in high school and there was someone that you were sexually expressive with without fucking.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't even, I mean, there was like touching, groping involved or whatever, but no, it was just like talking for the most part, like just talking about sexual stuff. It was just like not. I mean, and I do agree. I just heard a story recently. It's funny you say that about normalizing it. I just heard in The Rush about a young lady. Somebody was telling me about a 12-year-old who was thinking about having sex already. And her excuse was that her mother does it. So, but it's her. But for her to even have that thought, her idea of sex has to be like, it's not a everyday topic.
Right.
On top of the fact that, and then the person who she was telling this to, their answer to that was to scare the child with the STDs and all that. And their logic was that it might not keep her off it forever, but for right now. And I disagreed with that because of how I was raised.
Okay, what was your argument? What did you have to say about it?
I said that you know, that's not the way you talk to me, and I waited a good long while. I mean, I wasn't of age yet. I wasn't 18 yet, but I waited till I felt like I was.
You weren't 18, but you were already graduated. You were a couple of months, like you graduated at 17 and you were turning 18 in a couple of months. I mean, the only reason I know that, I'm just saying that for anybody listening.
Oh, yeah.
They might, because that could mean a lot of things.
I did it a couple of weeks before I graduated high school, and I was turning 18 that summer. But I told them what you told me, that it's a big deal in the sense that it's a responsibility thing, and you shouldn't do it until you feel like you're responsible enough and the person that you're with is responsible enough. And they need to have an equal to or greater than sense of responsibility and rationality to make, you know, decisions. And you shouldn't do, and I coupled in, you never talked about this sexually in the subject of sex, but I coupled in the lesson you taught me about you never know how much you're going to have to pay for something. And I was like, there are consequences to your actions, good or bad. So made me mention to the child that, you never know. Like, it doesn't have to be an STD, but it could be a plethora of things. There's so many things. So you probably should wait till you're old enough till you feel like you're making better decisions in other areas of your life to take those lessons and bring it into the realm of your sexuality and sexual experiences. And I also mentioned that that person should probably tell the child that they need to be really selective about who they have sex with, because not everybody is meant to be your partner. Just because you have sexual feelings for them or whatever does not mean it's meant. You could like them all day long, but that doesn't mean that they're meant to be your sexual partner. So I was just like, you need to stress the importance of it, because normalizing it does not make it, mean it's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. It just means that it's not a scary deal.
Right. And I think that that's the thing that people struggle. Well, this is the thing. I think that the more comfortable you are in your own sexuality, the more comfortable you can be talking about it and expressing with your child. And that doesn't have to look like sitting down and watching porn with your kid. Like, we never did that. Like, yeah. I'm not into porn anyways, but it's not like I was like, showing you porn. But like, I do remember us having like conversations about, do you remember that time I don't know where we were coming from or where I had picked you guys up from, but I think it was like, I remember Hannah being in the car, and I don't remember who else, but it was like you and two of your friends, and I was ear hustling, and you were talking about oral sex, and I interjected and was like, when you guys are talking about oral sex at school, what people are really talking about is girls giving head to dudes. Mm-hmm. And then we had like a whole conversation about reciprocity and how, you really need to make sure that your pleasure is part of the experience and that it wasn't just about serving someone else, which I think is a very common, especially in high school. I think that, it's so interesting, and tell me what you think about this. I think that in high school there is, and maybe it's different now, but this is how it was for me. In high school, there's a strong focus on the male's pleasure, but it seems like the older you get, what I hear from men is that their sexual experiences seem to be more, that there are a lot of women that end up being pillow princesses later.
I haven't, because of who I am and who I attract around me. Mm-hmm. I'm not a pillow princess, so I don't know very many people personally that mm-hmm. are that way. But
I know some, but I'm also much older.
Yeah. But that being said, I've heard stories.
Yeah.
But I have pillow princess tendencies.
Give me an example.
I have to remind myself to make noise.
Why is that a pillow princess tendency? If you just are a silent fucker. Because
men are reactive and responsive, and they're visual, and they truly, a lot of men truly, their perspective on their situations is sense. Like,
yeah, if you're not making sound, then I must be doing something wrong.
Yeah, making sound, having a certain facial expression, like, and it's for me, it's courtesy of reassurance. Like, I have faked it before, but I'm not, the older I get, the less likely I am to do that. Like, mm-hmm. if you're not doing what you need to do, then I'm just gonna, but it's like I know a lot of the male experience sexually is performance. Mm-hmm. And if I am having a good time, then I'm going to express that. So I have to tell myself to make noise. Because it's not like I'm not thinking. I have a very porn soundtrack in my head. I do. I have a pornographic soundtrack in my head.
Well, see, I don't. That's why, I try not to have a soundtrack in my head when I'm having sex.
Oh, yeah. I hate dirty talk in real life, but dirty talk on 10 in my head. And sounds, all of it, like the ooh, yes, like... And, but I could be content with just having that in my head and then just relaying that. But for me to have that soundtrack, if I'm not thinking, this is boring, then I must be having a good time. So
okay. I'm glad you talk about this, because two experiences that I'm currently having with someone is that, for one, the person can't be in the room unless something is hurting. Or what I found out, because what would happen is the person likes things to be intense. They like intense sensation, which keeps them in the room. But the other part is when they're not in an experience of intense sensation, they are time traveling out of the room through fantasy. So what I have found as a way to root this other person into the room with me so they don't time travel in their head is for me to be firm and direct in instruction and very illustrative in what I'm saying, because then they can be in the room without fantasizing out of the room.
I have such a hard time being in the room during sex.
Yeah, like that. Tell me about that. Like, what is it that, like, what happens if you just put your attention on the sensation of pleasure that's occurring in the moment?
For me, that's the thing. I'm very desensitized from, I think, other... I wonder sometimes if it's overstimulation because I masturbated a lot as a child. But I really think
But you didn't masturbate with like things that would be desensitizing. It's not like you had a vibrator as a child.
No, but in the last like 4 or 5 years, since I've been sexually active, I've been with more tools that could have been desensitizing. But I don't think that is that. That doesn't feel like the truth to me. I definitely feel like it's emotional. And if I'm not in a good mental headspace, then, because for some people it looks like not being in a good mental headspace, they're just not sexually, like they're not turned on at all.
Yeah, because that's what a lot of people think. If their mood is off, if they're troubled by something, then one of the things that they scrap is sex.
Well, see, and I'm not like that. If my mood is off and something's troubling me, it almost is like there's a fog over my sexual energy. So it's still there. I can still see it. But it's like I don't know if you like if you put a cloth over a light, there's still light. It's softened.
Yeah.
So like I still want to have sex, but the feeling is not as intense. Like, so sometimes I'm time traveling because the physical sensation is not as intense as I know it could be. Mm-hmm. So it's not, I don't know. It just is like, there's not enough sensation to keep me in the room. Like, it's not so in my face but I'm like that about a lot of things too. I don't do things by choice. I do things because I have to. Like, I wait till the last minute or put myself in situations where I have to do something versus me choosing to do it as a choice. Mm-hmm. And the same thing goes with sex. So I do my best to stay in the room. But sex is so much easier when you're turned on. And if I didn't learn anything from the person that I'm with now, that is the truth. I have yet to have a bad sexual experience with him. But I do know, like his stamina is like out of this world. And his endurance is like on 10 and like good for him. But mine is not. But I know I can keep up longer and with less difficulty when I'm like super turned on. My legs don't hurt as fast. Like, I can keep going. Like, let's do it. I stay wet longer. Like,
well, arousal is so important because arousal is a full body thing, and arousal does deaden pain.
Yeah.
And arousal does obviously increase lubrication and all those other things. And and it increases blood flow. So when there's more blood flow, there's more sensation, but there's also less pain receptors.
Yeah. So,
like, well, maybe it's not that they're less pain receptors. It's that when there's increased blood flow, what would be painful becomes pleasurable.
Yeah. So, it's like a whole thing. Oh, yeah. Like, I don't know where were we going with this, but it just made me think, like, I suck dick so much better when I'm turned on. I always enjoy sucking dick. I hardly ever, like, not, but, like...
I don't think your father listens to this podcast.
I mean, if he does, whatever.
I mean, just because his level of comfort talking about sexuality with you is not where mine is.
Yeah, but again, these things seem so natural and like, this is what I do. And if this is the topic we're on, then why not express? Like, but I'm also an expressor, communicator, all those things.
Well, I do also happen to enjoy fellatio very much.
Yeah.
And I happen to be very good at that.
Same. I think it's
inherent. You think it's
honestly, because
it's inherited.
I didn't have to be taught. I didn't stumble through it. Like from the gate, I was just naturally a go.
I don't know if I've ever talked about like head with my mom.
I don't imagine.
Not that I'm aware of. Like I've never asked her like, hey mom, how's your how's your dick sucking skills?
We should talk about it.
Maybe we'll talk about it for Christmas. No, but I've never I don't know what her skills are like. And I won't discuss my sisters because they didn't give me consent to do that. So
but no, yeah. I have but it's so much. I can do all types of acrobatics when I'm like in it to win it. I also don't believe in and this is probably a lesson in you teaching me about pleasure and how it should be an experience for both parties. I don't believe in doing something if I don't feel like it. And I will sacrifice in a lot of areas of my life, but sexually, like I'm not. You're going to wait for me to want to do it if that's something you want to do. I'll tell you ahead of time if that's something I'm not interested in altogether. And even if it's stuff I do regularly, like one of the biggest pet peeves of mine is being a lazy dick sucker. I can't stand women who are lazy dick suckers. It annoys me to no end, and I feel like if I don't feel like sucking dick today, I'm going to tell you, because what I won't do, head is important to me. Mm-hmm. So what I won't do is give you a trash head experience just because my head's not in the game. So, like, I just won't. Like, but there's, like, a lot of stuff, like, if I don't feel like having sex, period, like, if I don't even feel like I can't get in the mood, because, sometimes it has to start happening before you're, like, online. But I just won't.
Okay, so what about instances where it's not for you, where like maybe your partner's kind of had a shitty day and they're just feeling whatever, and it's like courtesy fucking. What about a courtesy fuck?
Oh, I totally courtesy fuck. Like I said, the person I'm with now is way more sexual than I am, and he requires way more sex and sexual activity than I do. It helps that I don't know how that's going to play out later on when we get settled, because we're still in the honeymoon phase, kind of, sort of our relationship. I don't know how that's going to play out later, but I definitely will, I definitely do before I leave, if I'm not going to, if I'm going back home after staying with him for a couple of days, we're going to get it in the morning before I go, so that you're not grumpy and all that stuff, so your head can be clear, so you can start the day off right. That being said, I always enjoy sex with him, so it doesn't, my motivation might be courtesy, but I still get something out of it. Yeah. So that's why I don't know how that's going to play out later. But yeah, I guess I do. I have no problem with that. But again, I feel like if you're not going to, if it's not going to be mutually beneficial, like if your head's not going to be there, if you're going to be a pillow princess and that's not your usual get down, or if you're just going to be like a lazy fuck about it, then don't do it, because then you're messing up their experience, and then your courtesy, the road to hell paved with good intentions.
Yeah. So then it's no longer a courtesy, it's a burden.
Yeah, and then you're messing up their time, because bad sex is fun for no one. So if you're not going to...
That's a tweetable.
Put a pin in it. But seriously, that's...
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So if you're not going to give it all it's got, then... the intention for goodness, and it has to be good-natured and good-willed. So, if you're not gonna have some type of something, your energy, and sex is an exchange of energy also. So
yeah, it is primarily. I don't think because sex hasn't been talked about enough, and because it hasn't been normalized to the point of regular conversation, I don't think that a lot of people are even thinking about the intentions of fucking, or thinking about from an energetic perspective what they're bringing into the experience when their head is saying they don't want to do it, and the flip side of that is sometimes the receiver of that experience has also not had enough conversation, and it hasn't been normalized enough that some people, even if energetically it feels shitty, some people will still fuck. They'll still receive, they get conditioned to receiving bad sex. You know what I mean? Especially in long-term relationships, they get they get comfortable with having the kind of sex that's begrudged by the person they're doing it with.
I was just, when you said that, that's what I thought was like, there's some people where it doesn't matter to them if the other person is having a nice time or if their energy is where it's at. They still do what they need to do. Because it's men and women.
Yeah.
I mean, your first thought is men because they can just get, it's...
Well, but our first thought is men is because that's what we've been socialized to recognize.
Yeah, but women do the same thing. And, I don't know. I feel like that's another thing about being selective about your partners is if a person genuinely cares about you, they will be more receptive to your energy, so they will be able to tell the difference in when you're in it to win it or not. Like, if you're feeling it, if you're vibing it, and it'll affect them. And then, if you're a communicator, that's a prompt for you to have a communication, or that's a prompt for you to put a pause and continue later, or when both of you guys are in a good headspace. Because a lot of times, if you're just with someone like a hookup or someone who has no vested interest in you, like, it could just be like you're not into it and they're just doing what they need to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's circling back around. That's another reason why it's important to be with someone and be selective about your partners. If pleasure, because at this point, we are in a space in modern times where sex is a recreational activity. So, for a lot of people it is. I know that there's a lot of people who don't have access to healthcare and things and preventative healthcare. If that's their choosing to how they handle, STDs and pregnancy and things like that. But for the most part, it's recreational, especially for us in a first world country. So if it's recreational, treat it like a recreation. Would you play a sport if you didn't enjoy it? Like, would you do anything else if you didn't enjoy it? Would you go see... If you didn't like going to the movies, then would you still continue to go to the movies? Like, make it an experience. Like, make it...
some people would.
But that's like a...
Yeah.
If pleasure is your focus in life, there's some people who that's just not there, that, like, them... Like, a good time seems so irrelevant. And there's some people who just function. That's just what's most optimal for their life. Not mine. I enjoy having a good time. Probably a little too much as far as priorities are concerned. But like most things in life, if having a good time is a priority for you, when your responsibilities are taken care of, the good time's much easier.
Yeah. I'm thinking about I'm thinking about people doing things that don't feel good to them anyway. And because I think that that's a symptom of numbness.
It's the opposite end of the spectrum, yeah.
Is because I'm thinking about routine things that I see people do, and I watch them having a viscerally painful response to the thing that they're doing, but they won't stop. You know what I mean? Like, well, you've witnessed that. You know what I'm talking about, Yeah,
and I actually, I think I've recently discovered that it might be an angle of self-empowerment. It seems obvious when you think about it, but there's a lot of people who just don't feel empowered to make the change. And it's this, I've noticed that I've surrounded myself a lot this year with people who just do what they have to do. Like, that is their, and I'm like, why are you doing that? Because I have to. Why do you have to? Because who else is going to do it? And or that's their mentality about a lot of things when it comes to family and friends and stuff at work. Like, it's just like, I'm doing it because I have to, because I'm the responsible one because I have to. But a lot of people just don't feel like they are capable of making the change. Like, it's like they can make the connection that they can do something and that'll change something in every area, but in the area of themselves. So I think that is what it is for a lot of people. It's like, they don't feel empowered enough to stop doing whatever the thing they don't like to do is. And I'm the opposite. Like, just because of who you are. And the generation I grew up into, because the, social media and stuff. And even before that, like, when you learn about in school, you learn about, activists and stuff. Like, I think I was just put in that, like, right time where I was just exposed from all angles of, like, you can make the change. especially when it comes to personal stuff, like, it's hard for me to gauge if I believe that on a large scale, as far as like social activism and stuff like that goes, but definitely personal. In your own personal life, you're the spark and the fire. Like, the change starts with you, continues with you, and it ends with you. Like, it's whatever you want it to be. But I believe that so strongly because I've seen it. But there's a lot of people who haven't seen it. They just do. Like, they've just been conditioned to do whatever because they saw people do whatever. And then there was no push for, like, real change.
You know, whenever I listen to you talk at length, and I'm not like, when I'm just listening, like just now, like I literally leave my body and think like, I can't believe she's capable of such.
Well, thank you.
Like, yeah, I have such like these out of body. It's so fascinating because always like once like when we're engaged in conversation, sometimes it happens, but if it's like an exchange and we're going back and forth, but when there are long stretches when I'm just listening, it like removes the meanness from the you-ness, you know? And I start to think like, wow, like she's so articulate and she's so like she can construct sentences in such this really profound way. And there's a part of me that just really can't wrap my head around the fact that I was a contributor to that.
Oh yeah, and definitely in the last like 2 years or so. No, I'll say the last 3 years or so. Like every time, because I'm interacting with so many different types of people now, especially in different age ranges, and just my awareness that I'm not that far removed from childhood. I say a lot of like, because of the way I was raised, or because of what my mom taught me, or like I was always taught, like my mom always taught me, like a lot of it is you. Like,
yeah, but like I can't, well, because like, of course, that's not the thought when you're in it. You know what I mean? Like when you were a child and I was, you know, when I was mothering you at the various stages of childhood, I was never thinking like this right here is going to be like you know what I mean? This lesson is going to be even like the sexuality stuff. I couldn't see that until after.
Yeah.
Then afterwards, it was like when I was telling you, you know, at 2 years old that it was okay for you to touch your vagina as long as your hands were clean. Like I wasn't thinking this is going to be like such a teachable moment for her life. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't see that until like now you're 23 and you're 5 years post high school. And so now our relationship is very different than it was when you were in high school. And so it's just a different experience.
It's so fascinating that you say that, because not only do I think it's okay for me to touch my vagina, if someone lets me, I'm okay with touching theirs too. It's not a gross thing. Mm-hmm. I'm totally willing to go poke and prod in other people's stuff.
Do you think that your willingness to touch and look in other people's vaginas was influenced by me always asking you, can you look in here?
Maybe.
I guess we should give a little context about, because somebody could misconstrue what that means, me asking you to look at my vagina.
If there's something going on.
Yes, and you were older. Like I don't remember asking you to look at my vagina in high school.
No, probably like my senior year.
Yeah, like just when I couldn't see, and probably when my sister wasn't available to look. Yeah.
It's like, but it definitely happened more when you started to have the difficulty with your eye.
Yeah, because I wasn't able to see. Like before, with a mirror, when I was fully sighted, and with a mirror, I could pretty much see for myself. But now that my sight is compromised, I do struggle to see things, and so I need help. And so I ask, like, can you look in here? I haven't asked you in a long time.
I'm never home, Mom.
I haven't had anything to look at, but...
Yeah, but no, I have no problem looking in mine or other people's, or... Yeah, I think that what I want to pursue as a career, I was thinking about extending my services to, like, you know, being an esthetician or something, and I totally would not have a problem, like, waxing vaginas. Like, I have no problem looking at other people's genitals, men or women. Mm-hmm. It's such a regular thing for me now, and it should be normal. I mean, it's not different than if someone asks you, like, can you look at this thing on my back?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can't see their back.
Yeah.
No one would think that was like funny style. Like, oh my God.
But people do though. People are that. I mean, on an average.
Yeah, but that's crazy when you really think about it. Because if it were some other part, like, you know, I don't know. Also, like, I was thinking about because people have the same kind of reaction to like using the bathroom with the door open.
Which I don't have a thing about either.
Which, I mean, I would never close the door, you know. But again, like, I recently had an experience with someone that is perfectly fine with me seeing their entire body and doing things to their body. But every single time this person goes to the bathroom, they close the fucking door. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I've seen all of everything.
Yeah.
But even and recently, just for jokes, just for shits and giggles, I was like, you know, they're like, I'm going to the bathroom. I'm like, can I come and see? Can I come watch? No.
Oh my God, I do that to people. Like, and I mean it seriously.
Me too.
Like, I don't know why. We just actually, me and the guy I'm seeing just recently got into the stage of being in the bath, like being okay. Like, he only has one bathroom, so I would be showering and he'd be like, oh, I went to go pee outside. And I'm like, why don't you just come pee? I'm like, why didn't you? He's like, because I didn't know if that was okay. We've had so much sex. It is okay. I know what your penis looks like, and I know what pee is a thing.
Look,
everybody
your
pees.
sweat's dripped in my mouth. I've already tasted your pee. It's
literally have licked the sweat off his shoulder.
Right.
At this point, just come pee.
I think, though, I mean, we've got a long way to go in terms of like society in the quest for normalization. It seems like bizarre that this would be something. You know what I mean? Like when there was a time where there was no thing that conjured shame, you know, and guilt and that kind of thing. And I don't know if it was the advent of clothes. I don't really know what was the cause of this like shame around this shame and cloaking of our sexuality. It's sad.
Yeah. It's had me question. I've questioned my lack of shame about things because people are so ashamed and act so shameful and so hidden. Like, I've questioned, like, dang, should I be ashamed of this? Like, is there something, am I wilding? Like, am I doing too much because other people, like I have no problem being bigger and showing my body. But then I'd be like my dad's family's from the South, and they have an issue with that all the way around through and through. Not because I'm bigger, but because that's just not what people do. And I'm like, am I not, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Am I not covered up enough? Am I not, you know?
Yeah.
Because a tank top means nothing to me. That being said, neither does a very low cut top either. It's all, what do I feel like wearing today? Right.
Well, I mean, I covered my arms, but not for the same. The root of that shame wasn't sexual. It was like they were such an obstacle for me as a child, like a physical obstacle for me, you know, like finding clothes and when it's that my arms wouldn't fit in. So that was a thing. But then like once I liberated myself from that, I can't believe it took so long, but even still, like it wasn't a sexual, shame.
Sexual shame is like a motherfucker, dude. Like
don't say motherfucker.
You said I could swear.
I meant people on the podcast could swear, but like as my daughter, you know.
I'm a guest right now.
Okay. So go on.
But yeah, sexual shame, and it's like such a huge. There are some things that are just so ingrained and like are just bore into your psyche that are just like, it's amazing. It's all certain stuff that sticks heavy.
Yeah.
And sexual shame is one of those things. There's like there's a chastity belt on sexual shame in your head.
This episode of the Sensuality Project podcast is brought to you by the Raising Sexually Responsible Children Masterclass. You know, one of the things that I did really right in my parenting was raising my daughter to be sexually empowered and sexually responsible. You know, sex is one of the hardest subjects for parents to talk about and discuss with their kids. And sexuality is not a one-size-fits-all conversation. It's a lifelong inquiry that begins in the womb, except for most of us are not having those conversations with our children because it's just uncomfortable. And that's why I hosted the Raising Sexually Responsible Children Masterclass. In this masterclass, I cover how to approach sexuality from both male and female identified children, verbal communication, nonverbal communication, how to create an environment where your child can feel safe sharing with you, and the most important thing you can do right away to help your child be sexually responsible now. Get instant access to the Raising Sexually Responsible Children Masterclass by visiting staceyherrera.com/responsible. There's an automatic 25% discount attached to this link. You're welcome. Well, I think that, and you can tell me if you agree with this or not. There's certain shames that are personal to you. You know what I mean? Like this is a shame that my mother or my father or someone in my family said to me, and this is related to that, But sexual shame is something that you can get shamed about it in your house. You can get shamed about it at school. You get shamed about it unconsciously in church. Even if they're not talking to you, if you have a shame, everything sounds like they're talking about that thing to you. So it's not specific. It's like, it's something that can get bored in your head everywhere you go. As opposed to, if you've got a shame about maybe you think maybe somebody in your family teased you about your big toe. You just wear shoes and the world doesn't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not.
And nobody's like walking around talking about toe shame. You know what I mean?
Constantly triggered.
Yeah. But with sex, it's like this, the thing comes up all the time. And I also think that one of the things that I have found with some of the people that I've been with and witnessed is that if there was a sexual trauma, and if there was pleasure derived from the traumatizing experience, that makes the shame that much heavier and that much more compounded and that much harder to relinquish.
I don't know many people with sexual trauma, actually.
You're so fortunate.
I'm trying to think.
Like, you are so fortunate.
But I guess like attract like, though. I have not had any sexual trauma.
I mean, also, how sad is it that I think you're fortunate for that? You know what I mean? But that's because I've had sexual trauma, and consequently, I do know, many people. Like, I can't even say a few people. Like, I know many people that have had some type of sexual trauma. And the flip side is I also know people that were in situations that society would have labeled sexually traumatizing, that their perspective on their experience was not.
I feel like I don't know if I am, but I might be one of those people.
Yeah.
Of course, obviously I don't think so because it didn't feel that big of a deal, but no, I can't. I mean, and again, it may be something that I don't know. Maybe someone around me that I haven't known for a while has had some type of sexual trauma and we just haven't discussed it or it hasn't come up. Are you feeling tender? No,
I'm feeling thoughtful.
Oh.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Let's talk about how my tenderness is triggering for you.
I'm not anymore. Not anymore.
What happened? What changed it?
It just is you. You get used to something. You weren't tender when I was a child. I mean, I was having conflict about it before.
What was the conflict?
That you weren't tender when I was a child, and now it's like you're tender about everything.
Well, I was tender toward the end of your childhood.
Yeah, but it transitioned to my adulthood.
Well, I don't think that it wasn't that I wasn't tender when you were a child, is that there was some conditioning that I had about hiding my tenderness from you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I remember, even, especially, doing the later portion of your toddler years, when your dad and I broke up, I was exceptionally tender during that time. But I also was, very focused on the strong front, which was not about you. The strong front was so I could get through the day sometimes. And I think that I mean, because I could now, of course, I can look back on specific instances where I know I was having like some significant tender things, but I do remember sometimes like holding my tenderness until like, at the time you used to go to your dad's on Mondays and Tuesdays, like holding it, you know what I mean? Like holding it. And then like Monday night, I would like come home from work and get into bed and cry because then I could just be, but that was, I think, conditioning that I need, but I think the other part was also me like literally holding myself together with, old ass Scotch tape and tacky ass glue. Like, so, but the older I got, for one, it was that surgery that really opened me up. And after that, like my tenderness feels empowering.
I think that it's good that you feel empowered in that way. I don't have anything about it now. But no, it was uncomfortable at first because it was a change and transition. And then I was conflicted because I didn't know how to navigate that because that's not what once was. And with your tenderness comes a different level of affection. And your lack of tenderness when I was younger came with a lack of physical affection and even verbal and things as far as expressing emotions go.
I think you just don't remember when I expressed emotions.
No, I'm not saying you didn't do it, but
do you think it was that I did it more, or that you didn't interpret certain things? Like do you think that there were certain things that I might have normalized in conversation that then didn't feel tender?
Like what?
Like when I used to tell you all the time you were the smartest girl in the world. I said that a lot. So did that just become so normal that it was just like whatever? That was just like a figure of speech?
No, I never felt like it was like whatever. But I'm very, in a lot of ways, I have just been, it's not my natural inclination to interpret.
Mm.
So I have to be actively paying attention to interpret. So if, like, that's not a term of it. Like, that's a term of endearment, I guess. I would see it. But, like, endearment and affection are kind of two separate things for me.
Mm.
So.
Do you, in terms of physical affection or verbal affection?
Both. Like, endearments are, not necessarily terms of endearments, but just any type of, like, like a quick kiss on the cheek goodbye before you go. Like, that's habitual. And if you do it without thought or any backing of real depth of emotion, like, that's just so it's not whatever, because I do, you like when habits are broken and rituals are broken, like I do pay attention when like those types of physical quick things don't happen. But, directly saying I love you and what that means is different than saying you're the smartest girl in the world.
Did I not tell you I loved you enough?
I don't know. I think that became more ritualistic with a lot of people. Because what I've noticed is like the more comfortable I grow with someone, it's my automatic inclination to say that. So it's definitely ritual for me. Which might speak to those sociopathic tendencies you were talking about, actually. So where stuff just becomes like, this is what you're supposed to do. Like lights, camera, action. Come on.
Well, but that's being in the room. You know what I mean? When you're in the room, there's no lights, camera, action. And I think that might be also one of the shifts, is that my awareness, with aging, my awareness has changed. And so my intentions around words and around expression there is intention. That's where I don't know that there was before.
Which is like, that's just what ritual is ritual, And I think that at the time you're not thinking about it, and some of it is normalizing. And I think I'm going to say this because I'm going to preface this by saying that I know a lot of people do things, we're talking about doing things because they have to. But I know because of who you are, like the things that you do and the way you take care is not because you have to. It's out of love.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, people are always, there's the parents who go, like, I put a roof over your head. Like, is that not enough to show I love you?
I have never felt those thoughts. Like, I've never thought those thoughts.
I don't know. Some things about affection are normalized, but I think I required a different level of affection than you gave, or a different type. So I never discount what I got, because that would then negate your efforts, and that's not something I'm interested in doing. It just rationalizing the disconnect.
Right. Well, I think that it's also that you saying that is important, because I think that it also speaks to the fact that just because someone's doing the best that they can doesn't mean it's enough for you. So I was doing the best that I could, but that doesn't mean it was enough for you. And I can say that, and I can accept that. Of course, my instinct as a mother is to want to have given you what you needed. But my instinct as a human is to accept that what I gave was the maximum I had available, and you required more. And that now I can accept that, and I can hear that, and I can receive that without being triggered. And you know what I mean? Like, there's no story running in the background of my mind that says that my best, which as it turned out wasn't enough for you. There's no story that says that because it wasn't enough for you, that means I'm not good enough, or that I wasn't good enough. You know what I mean?
Well, I think also on my side, in the last year, I would say I've definitely grown to not, I don't know, I wanted I think I was expecting your apology, or like your acknowledgement of my childhood trauma, to be some grandiose thing for whatever reason.
Is there something I need to apologize for?
I don't think so. But now I'm in a space where I don't feel like I need that.
No. I'm asking you, though, if there's an apology that you do need.
I know, but now I don't know, because it's not, my perspective is now changed. So I don't feel like, I feel like it was what it was, and I made peace with the fact that my stuff is not a we problem anymore. I'm at a stage in my life where it's a me problem, and I know my me solution is like therapy and working on it and being mindful, and even the issues that I have with my dad, or like any other person who played a role in my childhood. Like, I'm not angry about the past anymore. It's like upset about current behaviors.
Yes. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
like that. Thank you for saying that, because that just actually gave me some clarity about some of my own shit, the stuff I've been working through. And then also some of like the things that I'm working through and actually healing are things from the past. But it is the current behavior that is causing me that is creating the current version of my relationship with that person.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like past behaviors, especially come from the same person. I mean, if you still have stuff around past trauma, then it doesn't have to be from that person particularly. But it only exacerbates the trigger when it's current behavior done by the same person who caused you past trauma. It only exacerbates the irritation and whatever negative emotion that is riled up from you. But I think that, I'm just in a space where it's current behavior and like lack of accountability or lack of acknowledgement, and I understand the acknowledgement part is more for me than them.
Right.
But that being said, just in this current space of, circling back, I feel like everything's all connected, but circling back to
isn't it though?
Right? The empowerment thing. Like, I am so empowered in a space where it's like, yes, this person is doing this thing, but like, what do I need to do to make peace in myself about whatever that they're doing? Because I need to change my perspective on the situation, talk to them about it, like let it go, cut them out of my life. So that's not, there's something that I can do to change it. So that's why I feel like even with you, like, I'm not angry about because it's like, At this point, I'm in a space where anything that I'm having is now, it's a me thing. And you've done nothing but made yourself available. I mean, and that's, it takes two to tango. Like, some people will make themselves available to hear your grievance and some people won't. So whatever they give you, you have to decide what you're going to do with that. And I mean, in this space, I'm fortunate enough that you have made yourself available to hear my grievances and help me work through what I got to work through. But
I'm trying not to get tender.
Oh my God. But
I'm listening.
It is still like that. That being said, I still am aware that it's an issue. Like, these are my issues now. And I've dealt with people who haven't made themselves available. And it's still my issue. And I've just decided that, that's fine if that's what they choose to do. But, I got to do what I got to do to help keep my sanity intact. Because it'll drive you crazy.
Yeah, it will. It will. How do you feel? I mean, we've talked about it, but I'd like to talk about it here. About like, because you are the type of person that recognizes your shit, acknowledges your shit, and even if you're not ready to make change, immediately, you are willing to make change eventually. But a lot of people are not.
You're right.
A lot of people are not. They're not willing. Not only they're not willing to acknowledge, and sometimes even if they are willing to acknowledge, they are not willing to work now or eventually. And how are you navigating the space of people who just are not willing to actively participate in creating a healthy dynamic when things aren't going well? Because it's not that people are not actively creating a healthy dynamic when nothing's happening. It's just that nothing's happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when something is happening and someone isn't willing to actively engage in trying to create a healthy environment for disagreement, how do you deal with that?
I'm in the midst of doing that right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no.
So, with relationships in my life. So, I don't have a definite answer right now. My answer's kind of open-ended. How I've started, though.
Okay.
I can tell you about my trial and error and what I feel like is working right now. First of all, expression. A lot of people can't know that there's an issue if you don't tell them. And I have a caveat to everything I'm saying right now to kind of knock all of what I'm saying. Might start to sound like bullshit after I say that too. Expression about whatever your grievance is. Kind of process of elimination about solutions, because, I've come to recognize that I only have my perspective and a certain amount of ways I know how to do things. So, it's making the work to try to go find other ways to handle whatever the issue is. Obviously my first answer for a lot of things, if you can't tell, it's talking about it. Let's discuss it and let's kind of have a game plan. Let's talk about what we're going to do in the future to help rectify that if there's something that you and the other person is interested in doing. Yeah, that's really all I got right now. I am still in a space where I'm trying to see if what I'm dealing with will be the permanent state of, certain relationships I have in my life right now. And then I have to decide, is that permanent state something I'm okay with dealing with? So, I don't know. I guess what do I do? I just try my best to work with the person. I understand that there is probably some healing that needs to go on their end. That's the part. Mm-hmm. That's not my caveat, but that is the part, is there has to be background work for the foreground to work. Mm-hmm. And if the other person's not doing their share of their background work, it only lets your foreground work go so far, because these interpersonal relationships are just an extension of self. That being said, if you're not taking care of the source, there's only so far you can extend. Yeah. So I think that you can only do so much to help nurture the extension. Mm-hmm. And if someone's not willing to do the work of source, then that is when you have to decide if you are interested in dealing with them in their current state and for how long. Mm-hmm. I think that's the that's how I rectify it. Like, that's the question. Like, because again, you never know how long someone is going to be in their current state, and you never know when eventually is going to be.
That's true.
So you have to, like, am I okay with, and your answer might be yes until you change, because your current self is saying yes.
Yeah.
But if your future self is not feeling that way, then you are allowed to change your answer. I mean, obviously with time, it makes it harder to change your answer. My caveat to this whole thing was that I'm also realizing that I'm, like, a lot self-centered. And that being said, I'm having a really hard time navigating how to discuss issues and place blame, because for as self-aware as I am, I feel like I can be a little self-righteous, and that's like an insecurity I'm having right now, is like feeling self-righteous. So it's kind of made me not want to share some stuff, because it's like, my God, do I sound like I'm stomping on people on this high horse, on top of the fact that I just recently had a thing with someone, and I felt like I gave the opportunity for resolve while the issue was occurring, and they didn't want to take it. So my instinct was to play the blame game and be like, I was having all of this dialogue about how terrible that other person was. And it's like, wow, I'm making this about me. But the initiation of the incident was my fault. And I was still trying to, like, well, this is why I don't want to deal with this, because you're like this. And I'm just in my head like, well, I don't even care that they're mad, and I'm not going to go apologize. But it's like, I was being a dick. And so, like, that's part of the hard part of that, is like, yes, you can express your issues, but then you have to, sometimes you having an issue is just your ego getting away of what really the issue is. And so, like, for me, it's like, I don't get props for wanting to discuss the issue, but it's like, what I make an issue and what actually is an issue are two different things.
Right.
So it's like a juggle. It's all, I mean, these are tools, yes, if you feel like you're justified in whatever's going on, but sometimes, I mean, I guess part of the rectifying it with someone else, even though they have their own shit, is like taking a step back and, self-reflection, because that can only help if you don't let it drive you crazy.
It can.
That's another one.
It can. Well, you're so much, I feel like you are light years ahead of where I was at your age, and I was raising another human. Like,
I feel like I don't, I mean, I'm inhibited in a lot of ways. Like, for all this thought does come at a price. Like, it all sounds fine and dandy because, like, I can structure a sentence really good, but I'm having a hard time. Like, I'm still having my own stuff with navigating my own emotions. I'm navigating, I mean, like any other 20-year-old, like, I have all the answers in the world for everyone else, but not myself. I'm dealing with my own 20-year-old struggles is why I said it that way. And I don't know, I'm having a really hard time navigating, like, my deficit in emotion can really make me quite cruel. And I'm having a hard time because sometimes I don't feel any remorse about the cruelty or like have any shame around my thoughts of being that way. And that's hard because a lot of times what stops you from being that way is like having some type of negative response to the thought of, and I don't have that. So, you don't
have that all the time.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't have it. You just don't have it all the time.
But a lot of the times I don't have it when it matters most. And that's what's scary. So for this thought is good. And I spend a lot of time thinking. And, thought is not, I don't think linearly. I think in like web form. So everything is like an offshot of something else. But it comes at the price of like vulnerability and intimacy. Because sometimes even when it's not hard, I don't have it because everything's so in the head and not feeling.
Well, I think that, I'm not thinking. I would like to invite you to make a commitment in for the next year, because we were talking about next year intentions and stuff, but to make a commitment for the next year to be intentional about being in your body more, because that's emotion is a neurological experience. And so like when you were talking about like lack of sensitivity and stuff, I don't know that you are desensitized more than you have numbed by not making the trek from your brain to your body.
Oh, for sure. I was thinking like a lot of the times, literally the farther away I'm having a sensation from my brain, the harder it is for me to grasp it. Like if I'm having a sensation in my toe, it seems so far away. It almost seems like I'm having an out of body like experience with the sensation.
Yeah. So I think that like stepping up your sensuality game in the next year is going to be really pivotal for you. Pivotal for a lot of reasons in terms of like the relationship you're having with your body, but also the relationship you're having with your emotions, and consequently the actual relationships you're having with other people.
Yeah, I am. Well, because I'm interested. I'm dealing with some of the most important people in my life right now are way more sewn up than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Because for as closed off as I can be, there's a crack in my armor, and I'm willing to bust through it when, the time calls, and I'm making it a practice right now to work past the discomfort. But there's some people who are not even willing, because like they have to work up to being willing and then work up to it, sharing and things. So, but I would like to lead by example and see how that works. I mean, that might not, with those particular people, that might not be the way, but I feel like the easiest part will be, I think for me, doing it in these personal relationships, and it'll only trickle into like business and stuff and expressing grievances and, when it comes to other things that are of greater importance, and it's like if you don't say something, nothing gets done type of.
Right.
Speaking of the year-end wrap-up, I've been triggered to reflect a lot in this last month, which I never do. I never do the end of the year reflective December, January's coming. Like,
can we do that together? Would you like to do that together?
Yeah.
I've got some.
Are we doing that right now?
No. Like, like we can have a whole, like we can make a night of it or whatever, where we just do our wrap up and our intentions for the next year. Like I've got a general idea, but like I said, I haven't taken that concept and applied it to my personal life, and I want to.
Yeah. I was saying all that to say that one of the things that's triggered me is a family member of mine through the grapevine, I know, expressed that I don't communicate enough with them, which is fair, and I do believe that that's true. And of course, my first instinct was to play the blame game. Like the phone works both ways, and I've been going through a lot this year. I'm just trying to take it one, and I'm sorry that I let some stuff fall by the wayside. That being said, still taking accountability that if I expect people to hold up their end of the bargain, even through the storms, I have to do the same.
Right.
So this will be a situation for me to practice that. And yes, this year wasn't all bad, but a lot of the stuff I had to work through, I'll say mentally, because I'm sure as hell didn't do it emotionally.
Yeah.
But all the stuff I had to work through mentally, the phone still did work both ways. And there's all email, text, like there still could have been some contact. So.
Yeah. Well, it's so easy. It's, you had mentioned being self-centered, which is different than being selfish.
Yeah.
And I think that when you are going through something, it is very easy to center yourself. And when you are centered, it can be challenging to see and include other people that are not in especially if they're not in your direct orbit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because the family member is not someone that is someone that you see regularly.
Yeah.
And someone that is actually in your same zip code or within driving distance of your zip code, which adds an added layer of challenge sometimes, because we have a tendency to nurture what's in our immediate line of sight. And when relationships are not in when there's a relationship that's not in our immediate line of sight, it's easy for us to not make it important.
I think
even if the person is important to us.
Yeah. I was I all of a sudden have this craving to provide more structure for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking about ways I could resolve that, because they're not the only person.
Yeah.
That I'm interested in still nurturing a relationship with, even if they're not in my orbit. And I was thinking, like, what can I do? And I've been recently, like, being more involved with, like, my planner. And I was thinking, like, what if I just put at the top of every month, like go through your contacts once a month and text, like, look through, oh, I haven't talked to this person in a while.
That's a good idea.
That doesn't take that long. Or, like, this might sound really, like, disingenuous, but I pre-buy cards that I want to send. And, like, that then helps me, like, even if it's just routine to send a card every whatever. First of all, people still like cards.
Yes, I agree.
And, like, although I'm not buying the card out of, like, oh my God, I was, like, thinking about this person, I just want to make sure, but I am.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't my feeling in the moment, and it become just routine and habit, but I'm doing that because it's so important to me that I want to make sure, like, if this is the way that it has to be implemented in my life, like, then that's what needs to be done, because it is that deep.
Yeah.
So it's
That's why you're the smartest girl in the world.
Thank you. It took me I don't know what's happened in the last, like, 3 months, but I have, like, man, oh my God, I don't even know. It's just like all of my 2018 transformation just got smashed. Because I think the people in my life right now have never stretched me and transformed me, and just I don't even know, man. Man, like, it's just, wow, cause for so much self-reflection, and cause for so much just intention setting, and just, I didn't know that my word, agility, being my word for 2018, was going to just, like, and I don't know what it is, but I just feel so indebted and just, like, attached and just fused with these people that are forcing me to grow in the most, like, I can't even imagine what having a child is like if this is what's happening with people. Like, oh my God, because I feel so just, like, pulled apart and put back together. And I'm like, wow. And kids do that, like, 10 times over for parents if they're paying enough attention. Jeez.
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, but again, like, the power of intention setting, I want it to be more agile and malleable and flexible. And I didn't necessarily get to that physically, but mentally and emotionally, I think I definitely have. And so I think that, I don't know, this is, like, the first year that I really felt like my year intention really came, because I kept it really simple. And boy, was the universe listening.
Well, it also speaks to the fact that relationships are like accelerated growth courses. There's that, but also that when your commitment to relationshiping is that you want to actually invest, and part of your investment is your own evolution, this is what it looks like.
Yeah. And I was thinking about that too. Like, my worry sometimes is that these people that I hold so near and dear are only here for me to, kick my ass and get some pep in my step. And I would be mighty sad if that was their function in my life, and then they went away after that. But at the same time, I'm very aware that it is a necessity if that's a priority for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This was so impromptu, and we should do this again.
I know, right? Well, let me make a public declaration. This will probably make me tender. I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm so proud of the woman that you are. I can't even believe you're a woman. But I'm really, really, really proud of the woman that you are. I really admire the way that you are actively participating in relationshiping, even when it's hard, and because when the discomfort comes, it would be so much easier to just be like, fuck it, I don't need that person, or, everybody's replaceable, or look, thank you, next. You know what I mean? Like, it would be so easy to do that, but you are not making that choice. And regardless of what the future of the relationships are, because there are some people that their purpose is to inflame us so that we can treat the underlying cause of the inflammation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But even you don't know. We none of us know. And the uncertainty is often the thing that causes us the greatest suffering and irritation. But at the same time, what is certain is now. You know what I mean? And right now, these relationships are prominent. And right now, you're making a conscious decision to actively participate in them. And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful that you picked me to be your mom. And I'm really honored to be able to witness your becoming, all the different incarnations of your becoming, because I've watched you become a lot of times. But I'm really proud of you, and I really love you so much.
Thank you. Aww, that was so tender.
Look, I didn't even cry.
I know, and I'm not even being facetious right now. What is happening? Wow.
We are grown-ups.
What is that? No, thank you. And this was really lovely, and we definitely need to have our own situation happening. Because I think we'd be great. The world needs to see us.
I agree. We have great shit to say. We have great minds. We both put sentences together really, really, really well.
And sometimes that's all that matters.
Oh, yeah. You're so impressive.
You're so impressive. I'm very impressed by the way that you chose to actively engage and handle motherhood.
I wish I could say that I did it on purpose. Girl, I was just fucking going with the flow.
I mean, I know that a lot of it was not all intentional.
No, it wasn't.
In seeing how, I don't know, just being, again, so fresh out of childhood.
It didn't feel like that to me, though.
Yeah, but I'm seeing other people's childhood traumas and how their parents with, what baggage they throw into the baggage that was already there, transgenerational wounds, and seeing how I'm at that age where other people have kids now, and I'm around other people that have kids and seeing how they're fucking up their kids, and so it's just like, wow, people are so impressed with me because you're so impressive.
Oh, look. Okay. Thank you. I receive.
It's true. I attribute so much of my personality to you, and just for all of my what may be sociopathic tendencies and all of my extra shit, I can do what I do because of you.
Well, you picked me. We picked each other. And I know this is not our first lifetime. I'm sure that this wasn't the dynamic we had in a previous lifetime, because maybe I feel like that because this transition from childhood to adulthood has been so seamless, and not without challenge, not without challenge. But I think that because of that, I feel really, really sure that we've lifed before, So thank you. And thank you for joining me. Thank you for being amazing. Thank you for showing up. Look, thank you in advance for taking care of me in my old age. All of the things.
No, you're not the only one. But there's only a handful of people I'd be willing to do that for.
Oh, I'm not the only one?
Like Jamie.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, I'll take that.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. The Sensuality Project is produced, edited, and hosted by me. Music by bensound.com. The Sensuality Project podcast is a production of stacyherrera.com.